Hey, welcome back to my channel. So, as promised, I have a very specific video talking about the young boy archetype. Not an official one, but essentially someone who has boyish charm. So, we're going to be talking about how it can be hard for you if you potentially have this archetype, this look, some key examples of actors who have managed to break away from the stigma associated with this, some who struggled a bit, and then I just recently had the idea to add on the difference between what it's like having this archetype as a young white man and a young black man. So let's get into it. I'm very excited. Um, Out of these three actors, so if you aren't aware of them, because not everyone is interested in Hollywood, we have Leonardo DiCaprio. We have my personal favorite, okay, Dylan O'Brien. And then we have the newbie. This is like three different generations. So we've got like 90s, early 2000s, the noughties with Leonardo DiCaprio. We have the 2010s with Dylan O'Brien. And I think this is this generation's famous young boy, Timothy Chalamet. Again, I hope I'm saying these people's names correctly, especially his, because I will be very honest with you. I haven't watched. Oh, actually, I was gonna say I haven't watched any of the movies he's in. Now I've watched half. I've watched half of one that he's in. Basically, I've seen half of Marty Supreme. I need to finish it. I was busy, but honestly, without saying too much, I really did enjoy it. But other than that, I haven't seen Timothy Chalamet's other movies, so that's why I'm not sure if I'm saying his name correctly because I don't also listen to any interviews of him. So this is just like an outside perspective of someone who's interested in branding and does branding consulting for artists and independent creators. What I think about their personas and what I can commend them for, what worked well. And then, yeah, like I said, we're going to touch on how it can be different if you are a black person pursuing the arts in any way, shape, or form, and you also have this persona or stigma attached to you. And so, if we go back to Leonardo DiCaprio, I first came across him in the Titanic. I don't know if that's his first movie. I might have to double check. But yeah, that's where I first saw him. And I think what is important first and foremost is your entry point, the first and foremost scenario in which someone sees you. So in Titanic, of course. Oh wait, was it Romeo? Oh, did I see him in Romeo? No, I saw him in Titanic first. Then I saw Romeo and Juliet. Whether or not he filmed Romeo and Juliet first, I'm not sure. But the interesting thing is, these are both classical movies. It's undeniable that his talent is there. The stories are classics as well. So that immediately put him in the spotlight to be respected, even though he has this young boy charm and persona. Because I think I've kind of faced this to a degree in my own life, and this is not even just in the arts or anything. I'm talking about the corporate world. Um, when you have a natural youthful face, exuberant personality, maybe a youthful appearance or demeanor in some way, shape, or form, it's easy for age discrimination to come into play where people can feel like they can either disrespect you or not take you seriously, maybe discredit you for the work that you contribute on a project or you handle all by yourself. And yeah, even if you don't have a youthful appearance, if you're just the youngest in your team, it's very likely that people around you just won't take you seriously. And so I learned from a very negative experience. One of my first professional working experiences, early on, that, oh wow, how people first meet you really matters because it sets the scene from day dot. You need to let these people know almost not subconsciously but subvertly. I hope that is a word. And I hope I'm using it in the right context, that you're not one to be played with. Essentially, I'm gonna have to double check. We're gonna learn words together. So, and the reason for that is because, like I said, it sets the tone. No. See, it's not subvertly. Oh no. So subvertly is not a standard English word, but it is derived from subvert, meaning to act in a secret, indirect, or sneaky way. Oh, to undermine or overthrow. Okay, what I mean is that you need to let people know indirectly that you're not one to be messed with. Because if you come in all guns blazing, like take me, take me with respect, treat me with respect. Like if you have to shout about something, no one's gonna take you seriously at the end of the day. But if you let people know that these are my boundaries, I'm talking about in the working context, you notice that someone is trying to push beyond your boundaries, you have to politely remind them, oh no, I won't be able to do that today, but maybe, in my next working day or maybe tomorrow, depending on what your cadence of work is. And so also speaking to people with respect and not coming across as if you're just so happy and lucky to be here, that comes across as, oh, she's very green or he's very green. And so I can imagine there was a level of professionalism that Leonardo DiCaprio displayed, first of all, in the auditions so that he could be taken seriously. And I'm sure he's been acting for years before his big break as well. Like I said, I'm not 100% caught up on the law. Okay. I'm talking about this more so from the knowledge I have as a consumer of his work. But yeah, coming into environments and understanding that you belong there is so important. And I'm trying to think now, like, how I should title this video so that it even goes beyond like my usual target audience of people looking for branding, because this is just essential life skills on how to navigate power dynamics that can come into play based on how you look or how you talk or your age. Certain characteristics that can't necessarily be changed. So Leonardo DiCaprio, he did very well to be first of all chosen, but also to pick projects that would allow him to be seen from a high esteem in a positive light from the jump. So no one could deny that, oh, this is just some young fad of a boy. He was taken seriously. Contrast that with Dylan O'Brien. He had his big break in what do you call it? Teen Wolf. So that's where I met him. And that is, again, even the word in it, teen. I believe it was a remake of another like Teen Wolf. I don't know if it's a movie or a TV show, but some kind of like werewolf drama just remade. So in that sense, it kind of was a classic, but not big enough that I'm not aware of it. To be fair, it's not like a Romeo and Juliet, which is by Shakespeare. Like undeniable that that is a classic. But Teen Wolf was his big break, and so that's a teen drama. You're dealing with teen angst. He was, to me, almost like the unofficial main character. God bless Tyler Posey, but I didn't really gravitate towards him per se. I really loved Dylan O'Brien's character. He was witty, he was smart, he always had a comeback. I spoke about that in my last video, and I kind of touched on the young boy persona. If you haven't seen it, it's actually my video on Jackie Appiah. So I will put it on the end screen so that you can watch that. It's completely different to Hollywood, but please go into it open minded if you are not familiar with the actress, because I do touch on certain tropes that kind of belong in this segment. But essentially, back to Dylan O'Brien, he's being portrayed as someone that's very witty. And what we tend to like about witty characters is that it shows that they have a backbone. Again, not someone to be played with. That means, oh, I can respect you. Whereas with Tyler Posey's character in Teen Wolf, he was like a lenient alpha. I wasn't really drawn to that. Again, I'm gonna need a bit of a backbone for me to like you. Okay? Not that he wasn't likable, but just not enough. I don't think he took up enough presence on the screen per se. Whereas when Dylan O'Brien was in the scene, yeah, like I felt something. So that was his start, and then he continued on that teen trope. And whether or not it was due to money or he felt like I've been typecast, or if he actually wanted to go down that route, he fell into the trap, I would say, of doing more teen stuff. And I say money because he went into the dystopian themed type movies. And at that time, dystopian movies were all the rage, but they were, I believe, predominantly all the rage with teenagers. And I was a teenager at the time. So he then starred in the Maze Runner series. And I love that. I love the Maze Runner books, so I definitely enjoyed watching the movies. But I can imagine it's different from being the consumer rather than being the person who's actually partaking in the act. I highly doubt producers and directors were now going to take him seriously after being in Teen Wolf and now doing another teen heavy, teen centric genre of movies. You have been typecast, my sir. I hate to break it to you, but you have been typecast. So after he did the Maze Runner, he also did more teen stuff. Again, as you can tell, I really love him. He did this movie with Brittany Roberts, I believe. It was called The First Time. I love that movie. I really loved it. But once again, it's like you're pigeonholing yourself. And this also touches on what I want to speak about when it comes to a black male artist who fits this archetype. And one of his problems, aside from, I don't know, maybe being typecast by his audience, is that he also kind of pigeonholed himself. The first time, I need to see who the cast was. And so if you're doing all of these, Britt Robertson, okay. If you're doing all of these movies and TV shows in one specific genre, it just means that you now come across as a bit one dimensional. Whereas Leonardo DiCaprio and Timothy Chalamet, from the jump, they have done work that is critically acclaimed, worked with big producers, and they've had variety. That is the only way that you can escape the stigma that comes with looking young. Like, you need to show variety, you need to show professionalism, you need to show that you understand the classics and you're ready to take part in real work, not just teen work. And so, if we're taking this outside into the broader context of working, let's say you work in corporate, you need to be attaching yourself to different projects outside of maybe your role, whether it just be like assigning, whether you're assigned or offering help or volunteering. It really helps to show that your expertise extends beyond what they've put you in. And I'm not saying that you should do this forever so that you burn out, but intermittently offer out help to different departments or teams if that is possible in your workplace. Because then people will look at you and be like, oh, I guess she does know something. So that leads me to my next slide, how to pivot. Make sure you are taking on tasks or roles or work that shows your range. If you don't have a range, then I guess this video doesn't apply to you. Keep doing what you're doing. That is also, another form of power, showing that you're specialized. But if you don't want your youthful face or appearance and your boyish charm or girlish charm, if we're going to put it in that context, to be taken as a hindrance, then you need to pivot. You need to work with people that can see your talent and capabilities, and don't try and force it on people that just don't see at the end of the day. So let's say I've given you this advice. Okay, you need to, offer out help to different departments. If you're in a workplace where you feel like, okay, I've offered out help, but no one's still taking me seriously, then you need to pivot and look into going into a new employer. And so back in this context, we have Dylan O'Brien. I think he probably realized that, okay, Hollywood isn't really taking me seriously, or maybe he just didn't want to work with Hollywood anymore. These are all assumptions, like I said, just from an outside perspective. But after the Maze Runner series, it got pretty quiet. And then the next time we heard about him, he was doing indie movies. Because, yeah, if these employers aren't going to take you seriously, then you need to switch lanes and go to employers that will. And so now, when I think of Dylan O'Brien, I don't think of Styles from Teen Wolf. I just think of Dylan O'Brien. So having that break and silence is a very necessary, because it also gives people who consumed your content time to, I guess, re-regulate, like deregulate the old idea they had of you, and then come to terms with the new vision you're presenting towards us. So that worked. I don't think Leonardo DiCaprio ever really had to pivot because, like I said, he has been showing his acting chops from jump. He's always had that diversity in roles that he would take. And that's where I say racial, like racial privilege, Rachel, racial privilege comes into play here because I know it's not as easy for actors who are, either black or from other ethnic backgrounds just to easily jump and switch lanes. I don't know why, but yeah, that's just the case. But Leonardo DiCaprio was afforded the opportunity and he showed it. Like he showed that he had the capability to do so. There's one in particular. What is it called again? Leonardo DiCaprio Shutter. Yeah, Shutter Island. That was in 2010. Yeah, he's just always branching out and trying new things, and I really enjoy that about him. Now, when it comes to Timothy Chalamet, I think I probably had a bit of bias, to be fair. I just thought, here is this young guy, like now he's all the rage. I'm just coming in as a consumer, not really knowing much about him. But I did go to his Wikipedia, and honestly, when I heard, or when I read about all that he's done, I was astounded. So Timothy House Chalamet, born December 27th, 1995, is an American and French actor. Makes sense. Known for his work in a diverse range of blockbusters and independent films. So, Chalamet began his career in television, appearing in the drama series Homeland in 2014. While a student at Columbia University, he made his film debut in the comedy drama Men, Women, and Children and appeared in Christopher Nolan, so that's a very famous filmmaker, science fiction film Interstellar. Chalamet came to international attention with the lead role of a love struck teenager, because that makes sense for the image he has, in Luca Guadagnino's coming of age film, Call Me By Your Name, in 2017, earning him a nomination for the Academy Award for Best Actor. Crazy. And becoming the third youngest nominee in the category. So obviously I didn't know this. So that's probably why, he was all the rage. He gained further recognition for his supporting roles in Greta Gerwig's film Lady Bird in 2017 and Little Woman in 2019, as well as portraying Nick Sheriff in the biopic Beautiful Boy in 2018. Let me just stop here because I think that is also a very key point. The thing about a biopic is that this is almost like a cheat code to being taken seriously. Now, I'm not saying Chalamet wasn't already taken seriously because, as I mentioned, he was the third youngest person to be nominated for an Academy Award. Was it Academy Award? What was it? Yeah, Academy Award. And so, yeah, he didn't necessarily face that problem. But let's say you are an independent artist or an independent vlogger. I know of one person, I believe. She has the American cowgirl aesthetic. And what she did really well, I think I just came across her because she did a documentary. This isn't a biopic, but biopics and documentary I would kind of put in the same category. She did a documentary of her travels on the road, like cross country, a road trip that she did. I don't know if she did all 66 states, but that immediately made me think, oh wow, this is someone who takes her craft seriously. And then when it comes to now adding in a biopic element to it, anyone who has done a biopic, you're never going to think that they're not, well, most biopics, you're not going to think that they aren't someone to be taken seriously because they are now emulating someone who is already taken seriously. So then, just kind of by transference, the respect you have for the person they're doing their biopic for almost can fall upon them. And then, funnily enough, I mean, Marty Supreme, which is obviously now his most latest movie, that's pretty much a biopic again. This isn't someone that is held in high esteem because, wow, what I've seen in the movie, that Marty Supreme was a heck of a person. But in general, it just shows that, yeah. One, if it was a positive person, you have that, respect that's transferred onto you. But in general, it shows that you have been tasked with responsibility to represent someone else who is important enough to have a biopic for whatever reason. And even when we think of Disney Channel, I remember they would always have like at least one or two episodes in the year where they would focus on like the greats that came before them. I'm now even thinking of Ant Farm. To me, that was such a like I'm sorry, such a childish show. Maybe it's because it was beyond my time and my era of Disney Channel. I came up when Hannah Montana was on Disney Channel, so Ant Farm, I was already past Disney at that age. But one episode that stood out to me is the Black History Month ones. And you know when they get transported into the time and they become the characters of that era. I always loved when Disney did that, and it's kind of like their version of a biopic. They get to relive the moments of history's greatest heroes and leaders. And so, yeah, you just have a greater respect for people that do that. So if you're a creator, you could either try and, speak about some greats that have inspired you, what they mean to you. It shows that you have a reverence for people of the past as well, which takes a certain level of maturity. Or you could do a documentary about your own life and make your life a biopic, so to speak. And again, like I said, it shows dedication and craft, and it shows that you also are able to be cinematic and truly artistic. So yeah, that's why I really wanted to make a point about that, because I believe all of these several points is why he's taken so seriously. But I'm going to continue on because there is more. Chalamet portrayed Paul Atreides in Dennis, these people's names, wow, Villeneuve's science fiction film Dune. And I don't mean that in a derogatory way, it's just like I'm struggling to read the names. And Dune Part 2, 2024. And Willy Wonka in the musical fantasy film Wonka, again, another classic. So he earned consecutive Academy Award nominations for his portrayal of Bob Dylan, another biopic, another classic, in the biographical drama A Complete Unknown 2024. I didn't even hear about that, which is actually quite a shame, but anyways. And his starring role in Josh Safdie's sports comedy film Marty Supreme 2025. The former earned him the SAG Award for Best Actor, while the latter won him the Critics' Choice Award for Best Actor and the Golden Globe Award for Best Actor in a Motion Picture, Musical, or Comedy, making him the youngest recipient of each award. That's amazing. Like honestly, I'm very proud of him. That is astounding. Yeah, he's doing exceptionally well. And even as I'm listing off all of these awards, it now reminded me of how chasing PR can also be a strong tactic. I say this because okay, she had some financial woes, so might not be the best, but before not might not be the best example, but before her financial woes, I would say Nearest Green, the Fawn Weaver, when she launched her alcohol, whiskey, bourbon brand, Nearest Green. I remember she said clearly her strategy was we need to get as many awards as possible so that we can be taken seriously, essentially. She was a new entrant into the whiskey, bourbon field. She didn't have as much inherent history, but what she did do well is that she highlighted, almost like what you can do with biopic, she highlighted the history that Nearest Green had with Jack Daniels. So by associating yourself and your brand with a legend from the past, it's a way to cement your authority. Ralph Lauren, I believe, who was it, Calvin Klein? He also did this when he launched. I think it was Calvin Klein. He positioned himself with greats of the past or the present. Uh, Launch ad. Oh my gosh, I don't even want to be able to find it now. But was it Ralph Lauren? I'm trying to see. You know the ones when you just consume so much information, you sometimes forget exactly who it is. But it's either Ralph Lauren or Calvin Klein. When they launched, they had all of the great designers at the time, and then they also had Calvin Klein or Ralph Lauren in the mix, and they said something along the lines of like, oh, like can't remember like, oh, who's next, or like the greats include, just putting yourself in the same world as the greats. It's just an easier path to be considered great. And so, like I've mentioned, with Fawn Weaver, with Nearest Green, highlighting the relationship between Nearest Green and the distillery of Jack Daniels, it immediately makes people take her brand seriously because you are associated with another great brand. And that's what happens when you do biopics or you speak about great people and how they influence you. It can make that mental association for people much easier. So yeah, I hope that has made sense. And yeah, let me know if it has made sense to you. If not, I will probably do a further video explaining the mental association and the positioning and why it matters. And I'll probably do notes on it. Now, an interesting case that we have here is that when it comes to black men, if you aren't aware, it's the image that black men have for the most part is relatively negative. So when you do see the youngish black boy exhibiting, I don't know if he would fall into black boy joy. I think he kind of does. It's great to see. We want to rally behind it because, like I said, it's not something that's seen often, and so that's why I believe, aside from the dedication and just the loyalty to the craft of streaming, being consistent, being entertaining, bringing on new guests. That's part of the reason why he's blown up, but also because he's a direct contrast to, all of the negative images that we have. And I'm not saying he was a saint in his streams or whatever, but I do believe he's a good representative of Black Boy Joy. And he's really young. I believe he started streaming when he was like 18 or 19. He's only 24 now. So when did he start streaming? I know he started YouTube as well, but that didn't really work out for him. Oh, he started streaming in 2021. Yeah, so he might have been like 18 years old. Super young. I don't know anyone who, well, you could know yourself to a certain degree, but I think it's quite rare for you to be so young and to know yourself. And so he probably knew that he had a big personality. Maybe he didn't like traditional jobs and he just thought, I'm going to make money with my personality. So yeah, he went into streaming and it paid off. But now what we are seeing is someone who has the boyish charm and the boyish archetype trying to display a level of seriousness that he has never ever displayed before. And as I mentioned in the Jackie Appiah video, which you need to watch, the persona that we have built based on the context and the world he has surrounding him is that he's erratic and he's a bit spontaneous and he's very loud. Whereas now, when it comes to fashion, the persona we have of what it takes to be a serious creative director is not erratic and loud and spontaneous. We think elegant, we think artistic, we think dedicated, completely different persona. And his way of rebranding was dropping a video called I Quit on his YouTube. And I didn't notice until afterwards that he had made a second channel where he was documenting his new journey of foraying into fashion. And I believe that was an attempt to attract a new fan base because he probably already knew, listen, it ain't gonna work out for me with my current one, at least not for now. But I don't know. I mean, obviously, like you're not known by everyone unless you're like Michael Jackson and Beyonce, but he's quite big. But maybe there are some people who actually do not know him, and so coming across him on that second channel might have been their new entry point to him. But I think where he went wrong is that it was just a bit too abrupt. Like I said, what Dylan O'Brien did worked well because he gave his audience time to kind of, I guess, forget about him in a sense. So they deconstruct the image they have of him slowly so that when he eventually went into indie films, he was better received. People have built emotional attachments to your old identity. And we even see this, people talk about this all the time, like, oh, what is it? Like, I had to detach from my family or my friends because they don't take me seriously, whereas I'm trying to build my new identity. And it's like, you probably just need to give them some time because, yeah, they know you as the you were before. If they never come to terms with your evolution and growth, okay, cool. But the human mind is just going to need a bit more time to deconstruct the world and the narrative they built up of you. And so his persona hasn't really matched up with fashion. But like I said, lucky for him, he's very young. He's only 24 now. And I think he has a great trajectory personally ahead of him. If he continues, on his craft, continues trying to reach a new audience, continues to show that he is someone to be taken seriously, and he also, showed some behind the scenes of him directing his creative campaigns. And so I was able to say, oh, yeah, that's probably, the thought process he had behind streaming. So the mental connections will come. It's just going to take time. All things take time. Um, Other than that, I don't think I have much to say. Oh, yeah, except that, yeah, I think, because I touched on it before, the racial privilege that comes with being able to just jump to different lanes. Black people aren't really afforded that luxury, if you want to call it a luxury, because people are so used to discriminating towards black people. Indiscrimination is inherently the idea that I only see you one way. And so that's what he's facing. He was kind of the pinnacle of black boy joy, and now you're rejecting that. You don't, like, the audience is like, what, you don't want to represent joy for us anymore? Like, what do you represent now? And that's even from a predominantly black audience. So this isn't just discrimination coming from outside of the community, it's also inside. So people might want to call it crabs in a barrel, but I just think it's just a lack of understanding that the branding shift and pivot will take some time. Um, I did have this traditionally put as the pivot, like when I first made this slide, but this was before I knew that he's been doing biopics. Okay, so I had to catch up on the Timothy Chalamet law, but I think this movie, honestly, like, I think he has now become a bit undeniable, even to the critics like myself who was seeing him and just thought, but like, is he just here because he's the new charming white boy? Yeah, this movie has put everyone to shame. So if you do fit this archetype, I would say, unfortunately, you have the added job of like proving your intelligence, your worth, your skill, and your talent. But then at the same time, there's power in being able to shock and surprise people. So try your best to lean into the advantage. Another thing I didn't touch on when it comes to pivoting, also changing your look or who you are associated with. Okay, that can also help. I think that actually was kind of might have been the subconscious start of when I started looking at Timothy Chalamet a bit differently when he started dating Kylie Jenner, because then it made me ask questions like, who are you? Like, not to say that I follow him on socials or anything. I don't follow Kylie either, but I did start thinking, oh wow, like I wonder, what they have in common, how they met. Like I've said in previous videos, you want people to be asking questions about you at the back of the mind because that means they are developing some kind of interest in you, more likely to consume your content, and then more likely for you to grow your brand equity and grow your brand. But yeah, that's all I have to say on the topic. Let me know if you think, having a boyish or girlish personality is judged differently depending on your race. Are any of these actors your favorite actors? Have you struggled with this yourself? Let me know. I am more than happy to have a discussion with you. You can check out the link in my description box. But yeah, I really enjoyed discussing this topic so much. Like I said, I love Dylan O'Brien as well. So yeah, it was just a fun read, fun talk, and I'll catch you in the next one. Bye.